The Miami Dolphins find themselves in a position that's both frustrating and pivotal when it comes to their offensive line. Let's not sugarcoat it, this unit has been a glaring weak spot for far too long. 3 starters from last season remain on the roster: left tackle Terron Armstead, right tackle Austin Jackson, and center Aaron Brewer. But, honestly, does anyone believe that's enough to build a championship-caliber offensive line? Because I don't. Not even close. This is a situation demanding urgent attention and, frankly, a complete overhaul in strategy. Now, let's talk about Terron Armstead. He's had a respectable career, no denying that. When he's healthy, he's still one of the better left tackles in the league. But if we're being real here, the writing seems to be on the wall. Whether it's retirement, a mutual parting of ways, or a post-June 1st cap-related cut, it looks like the Dolphins and Armstead are headed for a breakup. And that's a problem. A big one. If Armstead walks, the Dolphins are left with just 2 returning starters on the offensive line. 2. That's a terrifying prospect for a team with playoff aspirations. This isn't just about filling a couple of holes. It's about rethinking the entire approach to building an offensive line. Look, Miami's offensive line issues didn't magically appear overnight. This has been a chronic, multi-year problem. Remember 2016? Yeah, that was the last time the Dolphins had an offensive line worth talking about. And even then, it wasn't perfect, it was just serviceable. This team has been neglecting the trenches for years, and the results speak for themselves. Quarterbacks running for their lives. The run game sputtering. Drive stalling out. It's like a broken record, and it's getting old. Now, sure, the Dolphins took a swing in last year's draft with Patrick Paul, a rookie left tackle who's got potential. Potential is great, but let me tell you something, potential doesn't block elite pass rushers. Potential doesn't open up running lanes against a stacked defensive front. Patrick Paul might develop into the left tackle of the future, but right now, he's still an unknown commodity. Banking on him to immediately anchor this line? That's risky business, to say the least. Then there's the issue of the guard spots. Both of them are vacant. Empty. Who's stepping in there? Who's going to bring some stability to the interior of this line? Because right now, it's looking like a black hole. The Dolphins have some serious decisions to make, and they can't afford to get cute about it. Do they look to free agency? Do they roll the dice in the draft? The answer is probably both, but let's not pretend like that's an easy fix. This front office needs to get it right. No more experiments. No more projects. It's time to invest in proven talent and stop pretending that patchwork solutions are going to cut it. Speaking of free agents, let's talk about the type of players Miami should be targeting. You want a name like Zach Martin? Ryan Kelly? Yeah, so would every other team in the NFL. The reality is, those kinds of veterans don't hit the open market often. The Cowboys and Colts aren't exactly eager to let go of cornerstone players like that. But if, by some miracle, someone like Martin or Kelly becomes available, the Dolphins need to be the first ones on the phone. Back up the Brinks truck. Do whatever it takes. Because that's the caliber of player they need to stabilize this line. Of course, not every free agent target is going to be a household name. And that's fine, sometimes you need to find the right fit instead of chasing the biggest name. But here's the thing, the Dolphins can't afford to gamble on reclamation projects anymore. The days of signing guys who just need a change of scenery have to be over. This is about building a foundation, not crossing your fingers and hoping for a miracle. The draft is another piece of the puzzle, and it's an area where Miami absolutely has to deliver. They've got to scout linemen like their lives depend on it. And not just the first-round guys. The Dolphins need to find value in the later rounds, too. Depth matters just as much as star power. Injuries happen. Rotations change. If this team is serious about fixing the offensive line, they need to start stacking the deck with talent across the board. Let's take a step back for a second and look at the bigger picture. Why does the offensive line matter so much? It's simple, everything starts up front. A strong offensive line makes life easier for everyone else. Tua Tagovailoa? He's a talented quarterback, but we've seen what happens when he doesn't have time to throw. The running backs? They're only as good as the holes the line creates for them. And the receivers? They can't make plays if the quarterback is on his back. It's all connected. Building a dominant offensive line isn't just about protecting the quarterback or opening up the run game, it's about setting the tone for the entire team. It's about creating an identity. Think about the best teams in the league. What do they all have in common? A rock-solid offensive line. The Eagles. The 49ers. The Chiefs. These teams invest in the trenches, and it shows. If Miami wants to join that group, they've got to follow the blueprint. And let's not ignore the fact that the AFC is stacked with elite pass rushers. The Dolphins have to go through guys like Von Miller, T.J. Watt, and Myles Garrett just to make it out of the conference. If this offensive line isn't up to par, it's going to be a long season. There's no room for excuses. This team has too much talent at the skill positions to be held back by a subpar offensive line.